the phone rang, and my sister-in-law answered the phone. We were at my brother's house, and she said, "Your mother's been hit by a car, and it's bad." So, in full zombie attire, my husband and I raced to the accident site, where we learned that our sister Julie had also been struck.
Today's guest is Catherine Gourdier. The shocking loss of her parents and youngest sister Julie compelled her to write her first book called Breathe, Cry, Breathe.
And then all of a sudden, I could smell Mom's perfume, white shoulders, very sweet. I could just smell it. And I just thought, okay, am I really smelling this? And I had another medium tell me, she goes, "You smelled your mom's perfume once, didn't you?" And I'm like, yes, I did.
In today's episode, we discuss the unbearable pain of her losses, how she got through it, and some very evidential medium readings she's gotten as well.
You know, I miss them very much, but I'm okay. I'm okay with it, and I've accepted it, and I just celebrate them, and doing something like this, sharing their memories.
Hey everyone! I'm really excited to let you know about the Science and Spirituality salons I'm now hosting. During these intimate events, a scientifically verified psychic medium will give all of you readings, and I will give a talk on the science and evidence that changed my mind about an afterlife. This will also be an amazing opportunity to get to meet some of you in person or virtually, and to share more about all the science and data that transformed my worldview and got me through my worst days. These can be hosted in your home, in a nearby cafe with a private room, or they can even be virtual. I've hosted a few already, and they were really special, fascinating, emotional, evidential. So if you're interested in getting a small group together over dinner, brunch, drinks, coffee, to learn more about the science and to get evidential medium readings, send me an email at hello@wtfjusthappened.net and put science and spirituality in the title. Today I am speaking with Catherine Gourdier. She has a very, very moving story and has, like most of you listening, has been really affected by loss and, moved. I don't want to say moved forward, because you don't move forward from loss, but integrated it, really has made meaning, and has, I think, a moving and important and personal story to share. So welcome, Catherine. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, Liz. Thank you for inviting me.
And do you want to tell us just a little bit about your story, your book, who you lost?
Well, so it was actually on this day, November 7th, 15 years ago, that my whole family, I'm the eldest of 8 siblings, my whole family and 16 nieces and nephews were gathering to celebrate the surprise horror-themed birthday party for our youngest sister, Julie. It was horror-themed because her birthday is November 2nd, and also because she loves Halloween. So I was actually helping one of my sisters with her bloody makeup, and I was putting the final drops of blood down her throat, and the phone rang, and my sister-in-law answered the phone. We were at my brother's house, and she said, "Your mother's been hit by a car, and it's bad." So, in full zombie attire, my husband and I raced to the accident site, where we learned that our sister Julie had also been struck. My mother passed at the scene, and Julie's brain was so severely damaged from hitting the pavement that we had to say goodbye to her the next day. So, and then 6 weeks after their funeral, my father died, which I know of a broken heart. So that's my what the fuck just happened story.
Oof. That's such a compounded large amount of loss all at the
Yeah.
same time. I'm
Yes.
really, really sorry for that. Do you
Thank
want to
you.
tell us, of course, would you like to tell us a little bit about your parents and your sister, Julie? I know you describe them in your book, and you feel like reading it, you
Yeah.
get to know them a little, which is really lovely. So we'd
So
love to let your listeners get a bit of that.
yeah, I do. I do share a lot. I do share a lot of stories. Like my dad, with his sense of humor, it was always joking, but he also had a very sensitive heart. He cried at my brother Dave's wedding. I remember sitting behind him and tapping him on the shoulder, like, why wasn't he turning around? And I peeked up, and there's the tears coming down. So he was this, you know, big, strong man, but very sensitive and lots of fun. And my mom was spunky and also strong, having raised 8 children. The first 5 of us were 1 year after the other. But on a non mom note, she loved fashion and she loved celebrities and she loved doing anything new. And one of her friends liked to call her Grace Kelly because she said she always looked so sharp with her shoes and purse matching, even to go to the grocery store. And Julie, sweet Julie, almost 13 years younger than me, she also had a sense of humor and was also spunky. And she liked to flirt with men, with my husband and friends of my parents. Julie was a Special Olympic athlete, and she loved country music and horror movies and swimming, and she worked at Tim Hortons in Kingston, Ontario, and also she worked at McDonald's too for several years. And yes, she had Down syndrome, but she was a pretty spunky, fun young woman.
Yeah, you kind of fell a little in love with her reading your book and felt like got to know her. And so for anyone listening in the early days of their grief, how did you get through those early days?
Well, I was co-executor along with my sister-in-law. So fortunately, I was quite busy, closing bank accounts and all the things executors do, and also getting our family home of 50 years to put on the market. So and ordering the headstone, getting together with the family, with lots of family meetings, and what design do we want, what colors. It was very like busy, busy, busy. And then once that was done, because if I didn't mention already, I'm the eldest of 8. So I like to be busy. And I've had my own businesses my whole entire adult life. And once I wasn't busy with the executor stuff, grief really hit me. And I went to the lake. We have a cottage in Ontario in the Kawarthas, and all my friends were working because I was just 52, and my siblings were all dealing with their own feelings and with their young children. And my husband was out of town. I believe he was in Calgary shooting a film. He's a film producer. And so I was quite alone in my grief. And so I started writing to relieve it, which I felt getting things out on paper helped relieve the pain. And this is also when I was advised by a girlfriend to go and see a Reiki clairvoyant. And that ballooned into just like seeing lots of what I like to call alternative healers, because a Reiki clairvoyant, an NMT therapist, and then mediums. Once mediums clicked with me, I just kept booking appointments with them. So, and I drank a lot. Did I say that? Yes, I drank.
You do what you have to do to get through it. So you went to, I know you share, which I definitely want to get into a lot of it. You share quite a bit about experiences with, mediums and getting some evidence through some of these readings. So the very first, actually a Reiki clairvoyant, I guess you used those words instead of a psychic medium. What was, I think you had like a little bit of a what the fuck in there. Like, what happened where you got some evidential information that surprised you, if you don't mind sharing a little of that?
Well, again, if I didn't say this already, it was Julie's surprise 40th birthday, actually. Julie is 4'11", 4'11", 87 pounds. So she was a cutie patootie. So, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to read this a little bit. So this was with my first experience with a medium clairvoyant. She laid me out on a bed and her hands hovered above me. And she said, "There's a young woman right behind you. She appears to be in her late teens or early 20s, but I have a feeling she's much older than that." And I was like, what the frig? And yeah, so then she said, "Your grandmother's here, your mom's mom. She says, you have to keep on writing and singing. You haven't been doing that. You love it, so you must. And walk, walk, walk. You used to walk with your music. Keep doing that." But I had stopped doing that. And how does a Reiki clairvoyant that has never met me know that I like to go power walking with music and that I sing and that I write? And if I can just backpedal, when I booked any of my sessions with mediums, I gave my first name, I phoned, and I'd use star 69, so they don't know who's calling.
What is star 69? I know that's the thing that's not really applicable right now.
It's so they can't see what number you're calling from. So
it's like a hidden number, so
yeah,
they can't see it on caller ID.
number.
Okay.
Yeah. So by doing that, I just thought, well, if she says something that only I can know, then I'll know that it's all real, that it's messages from my departed family. And because in this day and age, you can just Google and find out so much information. So that would be a tip that I would say for yourself before booking, so that you would know. And like there's other, I can give lots of examples of things that were said to me, but they'll mean more when you hear your own personal messages. Again, there was just another thing with my grandmother. She's saying something about raspberry jam cookies. Well, my grandmother made raspberry jam cookies, rolled out flat with a hole in the middle so you could see the jam. A very specific message. Another one said, does April 16th or 17th mean anything to you? And I said, the 16th is my husband's birthday, and the 17th is my dad's. And she said, I'm getting, your mom's saying 76 years old. And I said, my dad was 76 years old when he passed. So, and for me, these messages, they're like a little comfort hug when I get them.
Yeah. Yeah, and anyone listening, that's like evidence, because if she's getting these, that means it's evidence in the favor of survival. Now, a lot of people, there's a few other questions I'm going to get into about specifics you had in readings, but a lot of people just say mediums are general. And you gave some information, or you received some information you just shared that's clearly not general, but you also had a reading you write about a little bit that you assessed as not genuine. And, just do you want to share a touch of that so people can hear the comparison?
Oh, yes. So, has your mother passed? And I say, yes. Well, she wants you to know that she loves you very much. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's brilliant. I didn't know that. And then he says, so what do you do for a living? And I said, well, right now I'm writing a couple of screenplays. And he goes, well, I think one of them is going to be made into a movie. And I felt like saying, oh, are you going to give me $5 million to make it happen? Like a good clairvoyant medium doesn't ask you questions. I won Veronica Hart. Her website is Heart to Heart. She would say, no, don't say anything. And so did Jay McKenzie. No, don't just let me feel. Oh, another message from Jay was, before we even started, she said, I was sitting out in the car and she has this notepad and she writes on it, or some just like they just constantly scribble. And she said, I could see this makeup, she said, on you. She said, I drew this thick black eyeliner makeup extending out to your temples. And I was a vampire for Julie's birthday party. And I had black, thick eye makeup on above and below my eyes. And of which I write about it and how it's all smears all over my face when I'm bawling my eyes out. But it's, again, she knew nothing. She knew my first name, and that was it. So that's a very specific message.
No. Yeah, that is, and that's spirit art, right? The drawing. And there was no way she could have seen photos of you on Instagram or Facebook or anything with that makeup, correct?
No, there's no pictures from that night.
Understandably, of course.
There was no pictures at all that night.
What did you think about mediums before getting your first reading, and what do you think today?
You know what I think now, but before, yeah, I probably I did think they were quacks, if you want to say, or that maybe quacks isn't the right word, but that they would just ask you questions and then work an answer around it. And so you would actually be telling them the answer without realizing you're telling them the answer.
Yeah, like cold readings. I know a very typical example that I've seen, and that, if you're genuinely doing a cold reading, from what I understand, they even teach you this. It's you look at someone, you don't have like a mother on the other side, do you? Now, how do you answer that? Both answers are correct. Yes, I do. I thought so. No, I don't. Oh, that's what I thought. And I mean, that's a very obvious kind of cold reading tactic that, well-trained cold readers are able to do it, very better than that, but still
Yeah.
there's an example. And
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 also,
what did you think of it? Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, in my book, like all of the readings, all of the sessions were recorded. So it's not like I'm trying to remember what they said to me. Everything was from the recordings, although I had to shorten it because the reading with Veronica Hart would have been like 18 pages in my book. So I shortened it. But yes, a good medium, won't ask you a lot of questions. And also, if they booked you for an hour, they won't go, "Oh, you got 5 minutes left, and then we go." The good ones, of which I've had a few, they will keep going. I did one that was an hour and a half, even though it was like booked for an hour, because she kept getting messages from my chatty mother. So so
And
a good one doesn't just look at the clock, you know.
And you said from your chatty mother, did you feel not only were there the factual details, which I think from my perspective is the most essential, but did you feel personality came through too and how they communicated?
Oh yes, that's yes. Veronica referred to that quite a few times. How she was very pushy. She's like, "No, I want this message to get across." Yes, yeah. And there
Yeah.
was another time, because my dad uh, was not a big talker, you know, and she would say, "Oh, I think there's a man there," and of course, and I knew it was Dad. And she goes, "But he's not saying anything." And so I took a moment, I closed my eyes, and in to myself, I said, "Dad, can you please send me a sign that you're here too?" And not 60 seconds later, she goes, "Oh, okay, so here's your dad." And it seems like they must have been going somewhere where they were going to have a drink, because he's carrying a 6-pack of beer. And he was a beer drinker, not a scotch drinker. He was a beer drinker. So that again showed his kind of personality. I'm not going to talk, but hey, here's my 6-pack of beer.
Love that. Um, did you always think there was an afterlife, or is that something you didn't come to think until
Well,
after
we're
horrible
Catholic,
losses?
so I would say yes, I did believe. And I had a sign when I was like 10 years old, when my grandfather died, and I was staying at my grandmother's house. Maybe I was 11 by the time I stayed there. And we were downstairs and we heard a bang. And I went upstairs into their bedroom. This may sound like just a little thing, and his photo had, framed photo in glass, had come off the wall and was on the floor, leaning up. The glass wasn't broken, but and there was a nail. So it jumped off, jumped off the nail down and landed up perfectly, leaning against the wall. That was my first kind of like, ooh. And that was the room he died in too. So,
And have you gotten signs from your family more recently, like after the passing of your
well,
parents and like
just just last week, because Julie's birthday, she would have been 55 on November 2nd. And my husband and I went out for a bite to eat. And the waitress came over. She was very friendly. And I said, "So, what's your name?" And she said, "Julie." I grabbed her hand. I grabbed her hand and I said, Okay. Today is my sister Julie's birthday, and she passed 15 years ago. And what are the odds? And she goes, and what are the odds that you would just go, hello, waitress, what's your name? She said, I think that was your sister saying, ask me my name.
And
So,
is that something you normally do? Do you normally ask your
we literally were going for just a quick bite. We had just landed literally in California, and it was 6:30 and we were starving and we were just going, it was just like a quick bite. When we're going for a leisurely dinner, we're having 3 courses, then I always ask. But this was more fast foody kind of place. And so, yes, so sometimes I would, but maybe they're not so much. But it was just, it was just a beautiful moment between us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that right on her birthday, you said.
Yeah, right on her birthday. Yeah.
And what are some other signs? What would you say is like, are there any signs that you were just like, what the fuck? No way. Anything
Well,
like that?
Liz, I've had them, and I wished that I could remember them. I mean, I've had things, people say they see dimes and that, or pennies and feathers. So up at the lake one day several years ago, and my dad was a big sports fan, both playing sports and watching, and he loved the Blue Jays. And I was thinking of him in the house, and just when I was thinking of him, I saw a bird's feather inside the house, not outside. But it wasn't just a feather, it was a blue jay feather inside the house. So I've attached that into their picture frame. I kind of stuck it into their picture frame. So that was, to me, that was a sign. They had all been at church. They were all at church.
Mhm.
So that's a really walking
Mhm.
home from church and getting killed at the end of, steps from the end of our driveway, our family home driveways,
Mm.
is pretty traumatic. Like,
Jesus, yeah.
yeah. So no wonder my father died so soon after, like to look out the front window and see where their bodies had lain on the road. Because the 3 of them were together, right? My parents and Julie, because she still lived at home. So,
Right.
yeah.
And yeah, what so I know one thing you write about that I think is something a lot of people deal with. Everyone in your family handled the grief and the experience very, very differently. What is there anything you want to share specifically about that and how people can also cope with that? Because that can be a really hard thing.
Well, my siblings didn't want to talk to me about what had happened afterwards. They were too caught up in their own grief, and they all had younger children. My stepchildren were in their 20s at the time. So I'm not even sure what they did. I do know I went to visit one of them, and she was like in her sweats and watching soap operas. Both Mom and Julie were addicted to soap operas, and I got her, and she was saying like, "Yeah, I'm watching this because Mom can't." And it was a beautiful spring day, and I got her to go for a walk with me. And then there was another one of my sisters who said, she just wore the same pajamas for 3 or 4 days on end, and I reacted differently, or I should say, I tried to help myself through this in a different way, which was continuing to be busy. I did have my moments where I had a vodka and I'd bawl my eyes out, or I'd go out and into our games room and sing karaoke. Julie and I used to like to sing karaoke and bawl my eyes out. But I after the all my executor duties were all done, it was advice of another girlfriend who said, why don't you do something with Special Olympics? And that just threw me into this whole, yes, I'm going to plan these fundraisers, and I've done seven of them so far. So to make something positive out of the negative, help and connect with what I called like Julie's friends, Julie's fellow athletes, and helping a lot of the other athletes as well. It gave me a lot of joy. I would suggest to others to try to focus on maybe something that your loved one liked to do, and try to make something of it, even if it was your mom liked gardening, maybe make a special garden in her memory, or but Special Olympics fundraisers, that's what I did, and it brought joy to my family as well. Everybody attended, and there was dancing and silent auctions, and yeah. So I would suggest focusing on that, and yes, the first year is hard, but I think most people find the second year is the hardest, because that's when you're out of your shock zone. And so what I like to try to do, using birthdays as an example, is to celebrate them again. We're of Irish background, French, Irish, Roman Catholic background, and we like to have a couple of drinks. So, on my dad's birthday, I might have a beer. My mom loved bubbly, champagne, and Julie liked her margaritas, and have a birthday cake and sing happy birthday. Still just keep celebrating them.
Is there, well, first actually I'll go to, are there any, really special memories? And you gave a little bit about their personality. Are there any specific memories of them you'd like to share?
I do have some of these in my book, but and one was but it shows my dad's personality. When we were living in the house alone together, after my mom and Julie passed, he was watching the curling championship, and I decided to go upstairs to bed to read. And he comes in, and the light was very dim because I just had my reading light on, and there was a suitcase jutting out at the end of my bed, and I could just see that, oh my God, he's going to trip, but I couldn't get the words out fast enough, and he tripped. And instead of saying, "What the fuck is that doing there?" he looks up at me and says, "I'm still falling for you, Kath." This was 3 weeks after the love of his life has died, and he still found that humor, to share with his daughter. And there's lots of other memories. There's memories of taking my mother to the Chicago film set, and And as we're walking onto the set, all the actors are coming out. And Catherine Zeta-Jones says, "Kath, is that your mom?" And I said, "Yes." And Catherine Zeta-Jones and Renee Zellweger and Queen Latifah and Lucy Liu, they all came and shook her hand, and she was over the moon. Well, she went more over the moon when she met Richard Gere 5 minutes later.
One thing that I thought was super sweet is that your mom she really loved entertainment and Hollywood and, actors, and you ended up working in entertainment, and
Yes.
these were your colleagues, and you got to introduce your mom and take her into that world, and it sounds like she got so much pride and joy and fun with that. And I don't know, that was very, made me feel very good to read and hear about.
I just found out from her, my second cousin, but mom's 85-year-old cousin. I visited her, and she told me, "Did you know that your mom's bedroom walls when she was a teenager was covered with photos of celebrities?" She said it was like wallpaper, the Photo Play magazine or whatever. And I'm like, no, I wish I'd had a picture of her room. And, she loved her children and her grandchildren and her husband. But, being a mom, you can have other interests. And this was something that I could share with her. Yeah, and Julie, there's lots of memories, so many memories of Julie. Just, I loved having her alone, visiting me at the lake, going swimming and out in the pedal boat, and singing our karaoke, where she sang very off key, but she loved it. So yeah, lots of memories.
Yeah, and so now, the loss has been a while, and as someone, I lost my dad a while ago, but it feels like yesterday. But in aspects, I've felt my grief really evolve and integrate in different ways. I do not think ever goes away. It just integrates in different ways. And how would you say your early day grief differs for you from your later current grief?
It took, I do explain this in the book too, but it did take really a good 5 years to be able to accept what happened, to know that my whole beautiful family was waiting to have one of the most fun evenings of our lives, because with 7 siblings living across Ontario, just to have everybody come together, for that one night, was so beautiful. And then only to have our mother and sister get hit by a car and die 20 minutes before coming to the party. So it takes a lot to go, how can this happen? They were walking home from church. So it takes a lot of work. I had other therapy and the mediums, but I did finally come to a place of acceptance. And I'm, I miss them very much, but I'm okay. I'm okay with it. And I've accepted it, and I just celebrate them, and doing something like this, sharing their memories. That's all helps. So yeah, in the beginning, yes, it was quite a lonely mess. And now I'm trying to spread some of Julie's joy.
Now I'm going to ask you, that's something that's probably just sometimes so irritating to think about. What are the stupidest, let's just all commiserate, what are the dumbest things people said to you in grief? I'm sure we've all heard, what did I hear? That from everyone's heard that, oh, I think your dad's in a better place. I'm like, bitch,
Oh,
I wouldn't even care if he moved to like a tropical island in like the best dream he could imagine. And and that meant we weren't going to talk for 20 years. I don't really care. I'd rather him in a worse place hang out with me, and that's my response to that. And at that time, I also thought there was no such thing as an afterlife. So I'm like, no, he's not. But okay, share the worst, the absolute worst.
right. I did have a page of that in my book, and then I had to cut it.
Only one page? I got a whole
things, but there was one, a colleague whose mother had died 6 months prior, and I knew he had to fly out to Calgary, and he got to sit by her bedside and hold her hand and say whatever last words. And then he ran into me. It was actually at the wrap party for the Resident Evil Afterlife, and of which I had received many emails from colleagues that I worked with saying, you should come to the party. Like, you love to dance, and to help me again. And so I went, and this person walked up to me and said, I know exactly how you feel. And I'd had a martini and I said, you don't know how the fuck I feel. You got to hold your mom's hand. Like, you didn't get a phone call. Oh, I was, but yeah, you don't say you don't know. You know exactly how you feel. It's hard to lose anyone, but to get a sudden phone call that they're gone, like, it's just a dagger right into your heart and soul.
Yeah. So. And you know what? Even two people, like, death is so different for everyone. Like, two people could have the exact same loss. Like, you could take two twins and they both lose a parent, and it's going to be very different for both of them. It's such an individual thing. So I even had people who'd had losses who then corrected how I handled it, because they handled it differently. They were like, oh, well, when I lost, I know what you feel because I lost like my dad too, or my mom. And, what you're doing isn't helpful. This is what you need to do. I'm like, bitch, we're different people, And by the way, I love your response. I think that is the response to everyone who says something stupid. I just, the you shoulds, you need to, all of it. So on a kind of another note, what would you say is sort of the most remarkable evidence of an afterlife that you've encountered?
Oh, well, besides what the mediums have told me, and there's lots more. I don't know, like, I remember lying on my bed, again up at the lake, reading this book called When Ghosts Speak. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, because maybe why I felt this. But I distinctly felt a weight on the bed beside me. And I continued reading, and I thought, oh, that's my cat. My 15-pound cat just jumped up onto the bed. And then I turned around, and she wasn't there. And then that was, and again, I wasn't scared. And I just went, oh, I guess Mom just sat down on the bed beside me. Like, and that happened a couple of times. My aunt also said she felt the exact same thing, where you can actually feel the bed weight on the bed. But yeah. I wish I could say I saw their spirit or something, but I didn't. And I don't know if I should work on that.
I mean, I even would think evidential mediumship reading or feeling evidential mediumship reading. I mean, you can always say seeing their spirit is something you thought of yourself, or your brain's playing tricks on you to comfort you. When someone a medium says something that is accurate, you can't deny it. So yeah. And have any of your siblings ever gone to mediums at this point?
Oh, yeah, yes. So, and that was I don't think I shared this. That was another fun thing. So, after my couple of experiences with a medium, my sister Nancy went, and and this was again to Veronica Hart, and she told me like this. My dad. Well, she said that the psychic said, so your dad's got his sticking out his tongue, and he has his front teeth on his tongue, and he's clicking them up and down his and he would do that, especially when we were children, to make us laugh. And I thought, like, you can't pull that out of a hat either. You can't find that on Google. My dad's sticking his tongue out with his teeth on the end of his tongue.
Oh, nice. Specific. Yeah. And, asked you some of the worst things people said and did in your grief, but let's take a positive note, which I think all of us in the whole world could use right now. What's the best thing that some people said or did?
I would probably just being with me and not going, oh dear, I hope you're okay. Can I do anything? I would say the best thing is when my friends started treating me like me and not like a wounded bird. Because that would be how I could start to feel better, instead of a constant reminder of somebody going, are you okay today? Is there anything I can do for you? I would rather them joke with me or say, hey, do you want to go for a martini? Like, do something fun. Or yeah.
For me, I think it was the people that just genuinely respected. First of all, we're honest that this just sucks. There's no silver lining. There's no at least. It just sucks royal ass when someone you love dies, and who were very acknowledging about it, and then respected how I wanted to handle it. Said that, said there's no right or wrong way to cope with this, and it said my feelings were okay, because you get some dark feelings and some people get scared about that, but we're just like, totally valid. Like, however dark you're feeling today, totally valid. And however you deal with that darkness, you do you. And, for me, I think that's what I liked, so giving me respecting that. Yeah, not the cheering up, not the correcting of how bad it feels. That's what worked for me. And
yeah.
So,
and
sorry.
I thought of something else that was a validating sign. Again, it wasn't physical, but again, as the executor, I was sitting in my cottage chair and I had the task of writing the checks out for our inheritance to all of my siblings. And I was putting it off because I thought once I did this, then my duties were done. And, were my siblings, were we going to keep in touch as much after my duties were done? And I was sitting there crying. And then all of a sudden I could smell Mom's perfume, white shoulders, very sweet. I could just smell it. And I just thought, okay, am I really smelling this? And I had another medium tell me, she goes, you smelled your mom's perfume once, didn't you? And I'm like, yes, I did. And I had the pictures of mom and dad beside me too. So that was another, I guess, validation of the afterlife. I don't personally like sweet perfumes. I like musky ones, and so and it was there were no flowers in the house, so it was a message.
Yeah, and you did some activism helping, protect others from the way your mom and sister passed. Would you like to share a little bit about that and how it helped you with your grief?
Um, after my father passed, my aunt, his sister Joan, got a call from Global TV wanting to do a piece on dying of a broken heart. So they called me and interviewed me about that. And then a few months later, there were more pedestrian accidents on the rise. And what they were finding, the journalists, was that a lot of the drivers were elderly drivers. The driver that hit my family was 85. And so they remembered that story. So the producers reached out to me to do a show called Too Old for the Road, which was to help promote or to help get the message out to elderly drivers that they might want to think of hanging up their keys. I've tried promoting that and finding out, because as of now, you can get your license at 17 and never have to physically get into a car again to renew your driver's license, which is pretty scary. But airplane pilots, they have to renew, they have to fly and prove they can still fly every few years. So that was something that I was fighting for, and I gave my book to a couple of girlfriends that had elderly mothers, and the one said to her daughter, "Louise, I know why you gave me that book, okay?" She was 87. She goes, "I get it." And she never drove again. The other cause I was advocating for was, or still am, is the gift of life. Julie helped save 4 lives and gave the gift of sight to 2 others. That's why I'm wearing my little green ribbon for the gift of life. So I promote that every now and then on Facebook and share the story. And I got such comfort in receiving and writing letters to Julie's lung recipient, who lived 12 years longer because of Julie's lungs. She passed sadly last October, but that's something I like to promote. And then, of course, Special Olympics, because what some people maybe don't realize is each chapter, if you're in a small town that has Special Olympics community, each chapter has to support their own. They have to support their own chapter. They have to do their own fundraising. So it's not like a big check falls from the sky. from New York City or wherever you happen to be. They do their own fundraising. And so that's something that gave me joy. And I think it's worth promoting. Special Olympics. If you've never been to a Special Olympics event, they're so much fun to watch because it's not about competing, although they'd like to win too. It's more about the joy of playing the games.
If you want to learn how I went from being a skeptical atheist who thought there was zero chance of an afterlife to a skeptical atheist who thinks an afterlife is highly probable, come check out my books. WTF Just Happened. After recording, Catherine thought of a few more things she wanted to come back and share. First of all, she had some signs and communications that she wanted to make sure to share with all of you, as well as a few more of those stupid things people say to others in grief that I know we just all need to vent about and can relate to.
One was it was around the 1 year anniversary of my family's deaths, and my husband decided to sweep me away to Mexico on a beach vacation, trying to do his best to make me feel better. But of course, it stays with you. When we came back, I went up to the bedroom. I fell on my knees and I just like cried out, "Can you please let me know you're together? Mom, Dad, Jewel, can you give me a sign to let me know that you're together?" And the lights started flickering. I know some people go, "Oh yeah, the lights started flickering." On the wall panel over on the side, and there was no indication of the light switch moving, the little dots that go. The lights were just flickering. So, and I've heard one of my therapists said that, yes, they use electronics. And so another electronics sign was I was on my hands and knees cleaning the kitchen floor in our family home, getting it ready to sell. And I had the radio on, and the song Kathy's Clown came on the radio. And my dad used to sing, "Here he comes, that's Kathy's clown." Not that I had any clowns at that time. I was a child, but he just sang it to me because my name was in it. But what was strange is I had it on a current 2010 radio station with current songs, and this song was Everly Brothers 1963. So that was, to me, it was like dad saying, "Hey, you're doing a good job. I'll get in the house ready." So that was one of the signs.
Yeah, and that's a song. I mean, I've never even heard that. Sorry, Pickles is barking in the background, but I'm probably gonna edit myself out. Pretty much, we'll see. But I've never heard that song at all. So that's kind of that's.
Yeah.
Have you heard that song on the radio since? I mean, I feel like it's not a song that really.
No, yeah. It's not on.
And were there some other signs you wanted to share too?
One of my more elderly friends who I met on a film set. We were in a couple of movies together. She had met my mom a couple of times, so she was like closer in age to my mom actually, and she did these palm readings, and there were a few things, but one of the things she said, "Do you have a special chair in your house?" I mean, maybe that can sound vague and general, but why did she say a special chair? My mother had this chair that she sat in reading her novels, and my dad read the newspaper in that chair every morning, and my dad died in that chair. So for her to say, "Do you have a special chair?" Yes, we had a special chair. So somebody, mom, dad from beyond, had to send the message, ask her about the special chair. So to me, that was another sign as well.
Yeah, and that's not really something anyone would think of. Like, I don't really know many people who have a special chair. Like, if someone said that to me, I mean, I could come up with something, but it would really be making it fit. I'd be like, well, I mean, everyone sits in a chair, but, you
Yeah.
can't.
That would be more apt to say a special mug, a coffee mug, or maybe
Piece
something
of
like that.
jewelry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Great. And was that everything you wanted to share? I so appreciate you
I,
coming back on it. Make sure you get to say everything you want to.
well, going from some of the things that you were told, that people said to you, the stupid things people say, or the naive things people say. Um, yeah, I had a couple of comments that I couldn't believe they said these things to me. One was, again, this was again just, well, it says it in the dialogue. I went to the dentist, and the hygienist says, "So, how are you doing? You had a pretty rough year last year." Well, yeah, lost 3 family members. "I hope this year started off better for you." And I said, "Well, my uncle Don died on New Year's Day, and I went back to my hometown for his funeral on the 1 year anniversary of my dad's funeral." And she says to me, "Well, it never rains, it pours." And I just went, like, I laughed. I thought, oh my God, she has no idea what she's saying to me. And then the next
That's
day, I was on the phone with a film colleague, and he's like, "How are you doing? Hope this year's going to be better." And I virtually said the same thing. My uncle died on New Year's Day, and I just attended his funeral that was the same day as my dad's funeral the year before. And and he goes, "Whoa, that's like a comedy of errors for you." A
oh my
comedy of
God.
errors, and the definition, a comedy of errors, a situation made amusing by bungling and incompetence.
It's
So it's like,
it,
the message is, people just really try to think before you say something to somebody who's lost a loved one.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's all. It's kind of cold. It almost sounds like a mild thing, like, oh, I had a bad year. My car died, battery died. They cut down my hours at work. I lost my favorite client. Like all that sucks. But that's more like, oh, when it rains, it pours. That's not like losses. I mean, that's just a whole, yeah. And the thing I notice when I hope your year's better, I mean, people say that stuff, and I think that just applies such a timeline to grief that isn't really true. It's like the first year, it's not a given that the first year is the worst. Sometimes it could be the second. Sometimes there isn't one better than other. It's waves. It's just time. There's no linear. And, it's very different for everyone. I'm sure there's some people where it's like, oh, the first year was the worst, then things got better. And there's others who are like, I didn't process it for 2 years. Like I just went numb and then grief. You just never know. So it's kind of like,
Often,
it's,
often you're if it's a really close, uh, tremendous loss, you can stay in shock for a year. I know for me, the second year was the worst, because everything's like settling, and you're getting back to your normal life, but it's not the same. It's not the same anymore. You can't call your mom and dad anymore. And yeah,
yeah, that's what the second year, the first year, I think it was like unmovable grief, but at the same time, it's the first time I was discovering all this afterlife stuff. And so, yeah, that was a different experience. And then I moved home. And so I was kind of in like grief and numbed out shock. And then, yeah, year two, some parts are better, but then I was also going back to like a lot more of my like working and normal life. And it would be like I'd be doing my quote unquote normal stuff from my old life. And I would suddenly feel so real. So it's like, either you just have no idea. I mean, I heard of someone who lost a parent when they were 10 and they just said they went into such numbness they couldn't process it and friends couldn't understand, so they didn't go into deep grief until they turned 20. So I mean, you just have no idea.
and the other thing that I experienced is, you can forget. It can be a year or two after, and like I think I mentioned, I'm cooking dinner, and it's like I call my mom every Saturday, and I literally went to pick up the phone, and then I started crying. My husband's like, "What are you crying for?" And I go, "I forgot." I forgot she died. Like you just, yeah.
That makes total sense. You go into like those auto moments where,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll have little moments. I'm like, oh, my dad would love that. It's like, oh God, it's some part of you can never fully process it. I think, I don't think it's very different than any other aspect of life, I feel, until you've experienced it, at least for me. There's some part of me that I know will never, I guess I will say never process it, but maybe never process it the way I thought beforehand stuff like this was processed, if that makes sense, or anything else
Oh,
is ever
yes.
processed any other way.
Because grief is not like breaking your ankle. It's
No.
it's not that kind of pain. Yeah, it is indescribable, really, until you experience it.
Mhm. Well, thank you. This has been really moving, wonderful conversation, and I so enjoyed getting to learn about your family and your parents and Julie and your medium readings. And is there anything you'd like to share before ending this conversation? And also, where can our readers find you, get your book, follow you, all of that?
Well, I think I mentioned this earlier, but my experienced advice, I can say now, I'm specializing in grief after losing three so suddenly, and then actually a nephew 9 years after that. But to try to get up out of bed and do something every day, whether it's to do the laundry or walk to the store to buy milk, something that will get you up and get you dressed. Try to think of all your good memories and do something in their honor. And what else did you just say to me? To say,
And where can
oh yeah,
everyone find you, follow you, remind them the name of your book, all of that?
oh, my book is Breathe, Cry, Breathe, which the title came from all of my girlfriends, or some of my girlfriends, saying, "Remember to breathe, Kath. Don't forget to breathe." Or when they would call me and say, "How are you doing?" And I would say, "Oh, I'm fine, thank you." And then I'd hang up and cry. So on this today now, it's 15th anniversary. So I still have to remember to breathe, cry, breathe. It's my book is available on Amazon everywhere, through Barnes and Noble in the US, through Chapters Indigo in Canada. My website is KatherineGourdier.com, GOURDIER.com. And I'm on Instagram at Kath Gourdier, because that's what my family calls me. That's what Julie called me, was Kath.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Oof. Well, thank you. It's
you.
been great speaking. Hit stop. Hi, everyone. So, major exciting news. Book number 1, WTF Just Happened. A sciencey skeptic investigates grief, healing, and evidence of an afterlife, is now available in audiobook. You can get it through my website or on Apple Books and on Audible. I read it myself, which was a really intense learning experience as well as emotional, as I relived a lot of memories. But For those of you who want to hear even more of my voice for some reason, or also are like me and prefer audiobooks, you can now listen to it. And what's also fun is some of the people read themselves. So you can go to my website, wtfjusthappened.net, where I link to Audible and Apple Books, or you can go directly to Amazon to get it on Audible or Apple Books to get it there. And I hope you enjoy it. And as always, let me know any feedback. To get more information on what the fuck just happened, go to wtfjusthappened.net. There you can order my book, WTF Just Happened, A Sciencey Skeptic Explores Grief, Healing, and Evidence of an Afterlife. You can learn all about how I came to conclude that there most likely is an afterlife, but you can also learn about the early stages of my grief and the amazing, fascinating people I met along the way. You can read about how much I harassed the mediums and scientists trying to get evidence to see if the mediums were cheating and see if what everyone was saying actually was true. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to stay updated on any new developments and any interesting new what the fuck updates. So if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It makes such a difference, especially for a new podcast like this one. And if any of you have had a crazy what the fuck yourself, have any questions, feedback, or just want to say hey, reach out on either Instagram at WTF_just_happened_, or email me at hello@WTFjusthappened.net. I love hearing from all of you. It makes my day hearing your stories and questions and feedback and all of it. And remember, you don't have to draw any final conclusions as you wonder, what the fuck just happened?